Playing with Power MTG. Powerful cards, powerful formats. Be sure to check out Dragon Shield for all of the best accessories to protect your decks. TCG Player for cards at great prices while still supporting local game stores. And Patreon, where you get awesome benefits for your direct support. We are excited to announce our very own custom Dragon Shield sleeves. You can find these on our store along with tons of other Playing with Power merch. We will be going to SCG Con Indianapolis later this month. We will be playing CEDh in the Command Zone and recording games while we are there. Stop by and say hello and let's all jam games together. We will also be going to the Marchesa 2022 tournament later this month as well. Marchesa is a 2-day Magic the Gathering tournament series featuring over $2,000 in prizes. It will have CEDh, Legacy, and Conquest tournaments. Check the links in the description below for more information. We hope to see you there. Check us out on Twitch every Wednesday evening for great games of CEDh with special guests every week. If you sub to Twitch, you'll get additional perks such as access to our Discord. Now, let's start off by showcasing our fighters this evening. First, we have Zach piloting the partner pair of Pako, Arcane Retriever, and Haldan, Avid Arcanist. This deck seeks to pressure opponents with Pako while gaining card advantage. Zach's opening hand contains a Soul Ring, Felwar Stone, Birds of Paradise, Sylvan Library, Taiga, Spire Garden, and an island. Next, we have Alex piloting Yarok, the Desecrated. This deck seeks to use its commander to double triggers and win with one of several different combos. Alex's opening hand contains a Gitaxian Probe, Reanimate, Llanowar Elves, Cloud of Fairies, Rhystic Study, Cyclonic Rift, and a Polluted Delta. Next, we have Mike piloting the partner pair of Tymna the Weaver and Thrasios, Triton Hero. Also known as Razakats, this deck seeks to cheat Razaketh into play and use its ability to tutor for a combo. Mike's opening hand contains a Mox Diamond, Malevolent Hermit, Notion Thief, Smothering Tithe, Feyburrow Elder, Gemstone Caverns, and a Scrubland. Finally, we have Kyle piloting Najeela the Blade Blossom. Also known as Najeela Tempo, this deck seeks to take infinite combat steps or win with one of several different combos. Be sure to check out Kyle Hill on YouTube and social media. Kyle's opening hand contains a Savannah, Marsh Flats, Watery Grave, Esper Sentinel, Veil of Summer, Gilded Drake, and a Thassa's Oracle. Without further ado, let's begin this mostly mathematical marionette of Muppets. Alex was the last man standing at the water balloon battle and gets to start us off. But Mike has a pregame action and puts Gemstone Caverns into play with a luck counter, exiling Mox Diamond. Alex draws and plays a Polluted Delta. He pays 2 life to cast Gitaxian Probe targeting Mike. He looks at Mike's hand and draws a card. He cracks his Delta, pays a life, and fetches up a Bayou onto the battlefield. He casts Llanowar Elves. Alex ships the turn. Mike draws and plays a Scrubland. He casts Elves of Deep Shadow. He passes. Kyle draws and plays a Savannah. He casts Esper Sentinel. He ends the turn. Zach draws and plays a Taiga. He casts Soul Ring. Sentinel triggers and Kyle draws. He casts Felwar Stone. He follows it up with a Birds of Paradise. With a blazing fast start, Zach gives the turn to Alex. Alex draws and casts Demonic Tutor. Sentinel triggers and Kyle draws. Alex fetches up a card into his hand and plays an Exotic Orchard. He ends his turn. Mike draws and plays an Exotic Orchard of his own. He casts Smothering Tithe. Sentinel triggers and Kyle draws. Tithe resolves, and with nothing else, Mike gives the turn to Kyle. Kyle draws and Mike's Smothering Tithe triggers. Mike creates a treasure, and in his first main phase, Kyle plays a Watery Grave into play untapped, paying 2 life. He casts Demonic Tutor. He fetches up a card into his hand and moves to combat. He attacks Alex with Sentinel. Alex takes the hit, and Kyle ends the turn, discarding to hand size. Zach draws, Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. In his main phase, Zach plays an island. He casts Nature's Lore. Sentinel triggers and Kyle draws. Tithe triggers and Mike creates a treasure. Zach searches his library for a tropical island, putting it into play. He casts his commander, Pako, Arcane Retriever. He moves to combat and attacks Alex with Pako. Pako triggers, exiling Mystical Tutor, Fierce Guardianship, Verdant Catacombs, and a Mana Crypt. Pako gets 4 +1/+1 counters and Alex takes the hit. All finished up, Zach passes to Alex. Alex draws, Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. In his main phase, Alex casts Jeweled Lotus. Sentinel triggers and Kyle draws, Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. He cracks his Lotus to help cast his commander, Yarok, the Desecrated. He ends the turn. Mike draws and starts his turn off by casting Feyburrow Elder. He taps his elves to cast Malevolent Hermit. With nothing else, Mike gives the turn to Kyle. Kyle draws, Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. In his main phase, Kyle plays a volcanic island. He casts Ignoble Hierarch. He casts Gilded Drake. Drake resolves and exchanges control with Zach's Pako. Kyle passes the turn. Zach draws, Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. In his main phase, he plays a Spire Garden. He casts his other commander, Haldan, Avid Arcanist. He casts Jiraga Tree Speaker. He casts Finhorn Elves. He casts Mana Crypt from exile through Haldan's ability. Sentinel triggers, and Kyle draws. Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. Zach moves to combat and attacks Alex with Gilded Drake. Alex takes the hit, and Zach gives the turn to Alex. Alex draws, Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. In his main phase, Alex casts Cloud of Fairies. It enters and triggers twice due to Yarok. He untaps his Bayou and Exotic Orchard. Alex floats a blue and a green mana, then untaps his lands again. He casts Phantasmal Image. It enters as a copy of Gilded Drake. Drake triggers and exchanges control with Pako again. He follows up with a Root Maze, paying for Sentinel. All finished up, Alex passes the turn. Mike draws and casts his commander, Tymna the Weaver. He moves to combat and attacks Kyle with Fabro Elder. Kyle takes the hit, and in his second main phase, Tymna triggers. Mike pays a life and draws a card. He plays a Savannah, tapped through Root Maze. He casts his other commander, Thrasios, Triton Hero. He gives the turn to Kyle. Kyle draws, Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. In his main phase, Kyle plays a Tropical Island, tapped through Root Maze. He casts Thassa's Oracle. It enters, and with the trigger on the stack, Kyle casts Demonic Consultation. In response, Mike sacrifices his Malevolent Hermit, targeting Demonic Consultation. In response, Kyle casts Veil of Summer. In response, Mike activates Thrasios, scrying 1 and revealing a Swords to Plowshares into his hand. Still in response to the consultation, Zach casts Fierce Guardianship, targeting Demonic Consultation. Sentinel triggers, and Kyle draws. In response, Kyle casts Pact of Negation, targeting Fierce Guardianship. Priority passes around the table and gets to Mike. Mike says he's going to pass, and Zach asks why he isn't even going to activate Thrasios to find anything, something. They go back and forth about this for a little bit, and then the stack finally starts to clear. Pact counters Fierce, and Veil resolves with Kyle drawing a card. While Mike and Zach were talking, Kyle realized that if one of his opponents could trigger his Sentinel with his library empty, he would lose the game. So he decides to change up his line of play and name Snap as Consultation resolves. Kyle exiles the top 6 cards of his library and then keeps going until he finds a Snap. He puts it into his hand, and Thassa's Oracle trigger resolves. He looks at the top 3 cards of his library, puts one on top and the rest on the bottom of his library. With a massive bullet dodge, Kyle ends his turn. During his upkeep, Zach wins his Mana Crypt roll. Still in his upkeep, Zach casts Mystical Tutor. Sentinel triggers, and Kyle draws. Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. Zach fetches up a Winds of Rebuke onto the top of his library. He draws. Tithe triggers, and he pays. He moves to combat and attacks Alex with Drake. Alex blocks with Cloud of Fairies, and in his second main phase, Zach levels up his Jiraga Tree Speaker. With nothing else, Zach passes. Alex draws. Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. He moves to combat and attacks Mike with Pako. Pako triggers, exiling a Soul Ring, Imperial Seal, Noxious Revival, and an Assassin's Trophy. Pako gets 4 +1/+1 counters, and Mike takes the hit. In his second main phase, Alex casts Reanimate, targeting Malevolent Hermit. Sentinel triggers, and Kyle draws. Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. Reanimate resolves. Hermit enters under Alex's control, and he loses 2 life. Alex ends the turn. During Alex's end step, Mike casts Swords to Plowshares, targeting Pako. Sentinel triggers, and Kyle draws. Tithe triggers, and Mike creates a treasure. Pako is exiled, and Alex gains 11 life. Still in the end step, Mike casts Vampiric Tutor. He fetches up a card onto the top of his library and loses 2 life. Still in the end step, Zach casts Winds of Rebuke, targeting Fabro Elder. Sentinel triggers, and Kyle draws. Tithe trigger, and Mike creates a treasure. In response, Mike activates Thrasios, scrying 1 and revealing Windfall into his hand. Elder bounces to Mike's hand, and everyone mills 2 cards. The turn finally moves to Mike. Mike draws and starts off his turn by casting Notion Thief. He follows it up with a Windfall. Sentinel triggers, and Mike steals the draw with Notion Thief. In response, Alex casts Cyclonic Rift, targeting Notion Thief. Sentinel triggers, and Mike steals the draw. Thief bounces to Mike's hand, and in response to Windfall, Mike casts Notion Thief. It resolves, and with the table out of answers, Windfall resolves. Everyone discards their hand, and Mike draws 40 cards. He casts Nature's Claim, destroying Root Maze, and Alex gains 4 life. He plays the Gaia's Cradle. He casts Lion's Eye Diamond. He casts Chrome Mox. It enters, and Mike imprints Dranith Magistrate. He casts Auriok Salvagers. Mike cracks his LED, discarding his hand and adding 3 white. He activates Auriok Salvagers, returning LED to his hand. He casts LED. Mike then presents a loop of cracking LED for 3, returning it to his hand with Salvagers, recasting LED, generating 1 mana every time. He repeats this over and over, generating infinite mana. He activates Thrasios to draw his deck. He casts Noxious Revival, targeting Thassa's Oracle in his graveyard. Mike puts Thassa's Oracle on top of his library and activates Thrasios. He draws Oracle and casts it. Oracle enters. It triggers, and with no cards left in his library, Mike wins the game. Ladies and gentlemen, what an exciting game. Congrats to Mike on his win tonight. Mike was firing on all cylinders this game, and it really showed. He saw lines of play that the rest of the table was blind to, and he was able to leverage that into a win. The most valuable card in tonight's game goes to Smothering Tithe. The mana generation from this card put Mike in a powerful position tonight. This card allowed Mike to develop his board while still having mana to hold up interaction for his opponents. Shout out to Kyle Hill for joining us in a sweet game of CEDh at MTG Vegas. You can find a link to Kyle's YouTube channel in the description below. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Tune in next time when we duke it out to see who will be the king of the competitive EDH table. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.